Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, happy Tuesday to you. For a good number of people, today is one of the most magical days of the year. It's when kids load the buses and go back to school.
I was about to say, there are a few things that happened today, one of which was decidedly not happy.
Well, yes. Mixed feelings today, because this morning it was happiness as kids are leaving the house, going back to school. But then later in the day, we find out Dolly Parton passed.
Yeah.
That was too bad.
Yeah, it's always bad when one of the well-loved celebrities finally passes away.
Yeah, legend. Absolute legend. In her very long career, very prestigious career. And, very big personality. So sad to hear of her passing, only 80 years old. Her husband left her just a few years ago, passed away, and so now she gets to join him. Yeah. So they had a very long relationship. I think they were married for like 60 years.
Pretty rare for celebrity marriages. You actually have a celebrity that's actually kind of somewhat normal.
I know. Crazy. Absolute crazy. But today we want to get through a variety of different topics here on the show. And, of course, if you want to weigh in on any of these topics, you're always welcome. On the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. You can also chime in on our YouTube chat, where you video stream our show live on YouTube, the Fan KLGN. And we want to get into some more post-practice audio, hear about how Utah State football, they had a little scrimmage on Saturday. Fans couldn't see it, but I had a chance to get up to practice today to ask some of the players how it went. And because the fall camp it's winding down. It's almost completely over. And soon they start shifting their preparations to Idaho State. So we'll hear from a couple of those players. Utah State soccer. We'll hear a little bit about their game, Utah Valley, which is a pretty stout soccer program down there in Orem. And some other things interesting coming out about the Utah Jazz. We haven't really talked much about the Jazz here lately, but some new stuff about the Jazz. And are they going to be prone to being a sloppy team or not? So we'll get into some of those details. And, of course, others that may pop up along the way based on what's on your mind. But Utah State had this family fun day on Saturday. And it was really more like a youth clinic for kids than anything else, with some opportunities to get some autographs and stuff. But there was a scrimmage that took place, but it wasn't open. And I know we've had a lot of concerns voiced about that, and concerns about the access and visibility of the football program. But they've still allowed me to go and interview players after practice and try to share that information with you. Certainly, we would all love to be able to see more of what this team looks like. But the players seem pretty excited. Of course, they're going to be pretty hyped to promote themselves and what their team looks like. But they seem to be pretty excited about the start of the season and feel like they're going to have a pretty good, well-rounded team so far. So one of the players that I wanted to speak with was a new player to the team, Javon Robinson, short wide receiver, slot wide receiver. He had a nice career at Georgia State, but he wasn't the featured wide receiver there. But despite that, he still produced. And so I got a chance to catch up with him today after practice and find a little bit more about Utah State wide receiver Javon Robinson, newcomer for Utah State. Yes, and I want to start with that. Just, you were a standout player at Georgia State, decided to come here to Utah State. What's that transition been like for you?
First month here, it was kind of difficult going through the runs and stuff. Had to get used to the elevation. But it been amazing though ever since I got through that little phase of getting used to how they work hard out here. And it's just a family out here, and I really love it.
Well, your last season, you had 6 starts, almost 600 yards receiving. So you're a proven playmaker. How do you feel like those skills and that experience that you had before kind of help you to establish an opportunity to help the team here this year?
I think it's pretty good. Last year, I was like wide receiver too, so Like I played a lot, and like me bringing the knowledge that I know and experience on the field, and being able to lift people up, I feel like it's gonna be good. Connecting with my brothers and just giving them the knowledge that I know, and them learning off me, and I'm learning from them.
How would you assess kind of the wide receiver room here at Utah State so far this season?
We all brothers. Nobody just independent. We all ask each other for help. If we need help with something, we ask the coaches. We just one, like we united. We ain't separate. There's no arguments going on, no selfishness. We just play together.
You been recognized by a couple different lists, like Phil Steele, Pro Football Network, Athlon. They all recognize your skills that you've had before and how that could potentially translate here to Utah State. What does it mean to you to be recognized on some of those preseason lists?
And it means a lot, but it ain't done till I actually do it. So I appreciate all the recognition, but once it's said and done, then I'll be more excited.
You already kind of mentioned the elevation was a bit of a transition for you, but what about the Bronco Mendenhall way and just the way that this culture here and how they run practices is, I imagine, a little different than what you're used to.
Very different. Like they say, everything earned not given. I had to earn everything I got here. Had to earn a different color, earn my name on the back of my shirt. Just basically, we just got to earn it. He's not giving it to us. It's nothing easy. Nobody coming to save us. We go figure it out, and we got people around us to help us to figure it out that have been in the program.
How do you feel that helps prepare the team for the season ahead?
I think it prepares us a lot because it's like everyone been here, played here, so it's like it's not new to them. So once they figure it out and then they teach us, we just get used to it, follow on, get in line, and just put it to the field.
You talk about earned, not given. You got to earn your jersey number.
Yeah.
You selected 0. Why did you select that number?
It was a long decision. I was gonna go with 5, but I just went with 0 because I think it looked good, and I feel like I earned it. Like I feel like it's only gonna be one of me this year that rock the number 0 how I'm aware, and I feel like it's a fresh start.
How would you assess the guy that's throwing the balls to you, McKay Hillstead? How's he looked in practice so far?
Different. he may throw that you think that can't be made. He throw us open. We never cover when it come to him because he would make us open. One-on-one, 50-50 ball, all ball. Ball in there, all ball. Like he amazing. Like amazing.
You guys are concluding fall camp basically, and you're going to start turning your attention to Idaho State. But how would you assess kind of like where you guys are at as a team right now at this point before you start doing your specific game prep for game 1?
I feel like as a team, we almost there. We got to get the will part a little bit more better, but even including me. But as a team, I feel like we ready and we play very hard.
You guys had a little bit of a scrimmage on Saturday.
Yes,
how did that go for you?
It went good. I caught a couple passes, made some plays. And we had number 4, Nico. He made a lot of plays Saturday too. He's a young guy, and I love him. That's my guy.
What do you feel like still needs to be worked out before you first take the field to face Idaho State next week?
Me personally?
Yeah, for you, and then the wide receivers. We'll just stick to your group.
I think we just got to get better running to the ball, honestly. Even in the game, it might be blown dead, but still run to the ball no matter what. And just, I feel like we ready. Like, I think our coaches prepared us well enough, even now prepping Idaho State right now, but I feel like once it's time to prep for them, we'll be ready.
Fans, last question for you. Fans haven't really been able to see what you guys look like this year. So when they come on September 5th, what are they going to see when you guys take the field?
Expect excitement, defense crazy, flying around, offense making plays, and just a lot of touchdowns and a lot of big hits. Having fun.
Very good. We're looking forward to it. Javon
Yes,
Robinson, thanks so much.
Thank you.
There he is, Javon Robinson, wide receiver for Utah State. Kind of smaller in stature, but we've seen plenty of guys that they don't be super tall, but they make plays. Devin Tompkins is doing that right now in the NFL preseason. And interesting comments from Javon. A couple of things that really stood out to me, Jason. Just his comments about the wide receivers and who was making plays in the the fall scrimmage on Saturday. Pointing out Nico Boncore as somebody who's been making some plays. So we've had a chance to catch up with him here recently. But also how he described McKay Hillstead on how he makes lots of different throws and throws the guys open. And he feels like they're never covered because of how he throws the ball. I thought that was an interesting observation.
Yeah, it's a really important skill for quarterbacks to have to be like elite, because pretty much all of your college quarterbacks are going to have a good enough arm to, get the ball to their receiver. And, through playing through high school and in college, they're learning how to read defenses and find open players. But then you get to the next step where quarterbacks that can hit tighter windows or find players who don't look open, but then you realize, well, hey, if I put the ball here, they actually are open. And that's something that your elite quarterbacks are going to have, where they can throw guys open or just hit tighter windows. It's that higher level of accuracy. And we've not seen that from Utah State quarterbacks in a while. Utah State has not had a quarterback capable of that. Will McKay Hillstead be like that? Well, we have at least one testimony of that.
Yeah.
And we have players and coaches who are excited to about what McKay Hillstead is capable of doing. We'll see if he's able to do that. If he's that kind of quarterback who truly can throw guys open, and it's not just, well, he can lead a receiver with the pass, because that's quarterbacking 101, lead your receiver like
right
on like a crossing route or one of those slant or post routes. But if he's really capable of doing that, that is a massive benefit for the offense. And McKay Hillstead really needs to be able to do that, because I don't think he's as good a runner as Bryson Barnes was.
No.
So, because Bryson Barnes is able to make up for being kind of a mediocre thrower by being a good runner on top of that. When I say mediocre thrower, he was still able to make the passes to run a passing offense. But he wasn't anything particularly special as a thrower, but what made him highly effective as a quarterback was, that added element of running. McKay Hillstead doesn't have that. He has some speed, and he can kind of do some things with his legs, but he's not an 800 yards in a season rusher the way the Bryson Barnes was. So he needs to be able to make up for that through his throwing ability. And I believe he has that talent. We have one testimony that he's got the accuracy, which is the main thing he was kind of missing as a freshman, which a lot of freshmen are missing that. But the only freshman I've seen who has tons of accuracy is Mike Alejado.
Yeah.
But do you have a guy who can be accurate on all passes, not just a high completion percentage, but a guy who can put the ball on a dot 20 yards down the field and not just pad completions with short passes? So that's something that will be really, really important to see from McKay Hillstead.
Yeah. Anything else that stood out to you from Javon Robinson, his observations of fall camp so far?
Nothing in particular. It's a lot of the same stuff. But what are we going to see from this team? And it's like just work hard, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, come on,
yeah,
but it's something new.
But here is a guy who he did produce, and he is on a number of different preseason lists. He's not on any watch lists per se, but he's on like the Phil Steele second team, a Pac-12 second team, or the Athlon preseason team for the Pac-12, things like that. So here's a guy who clearly has produced at his previous location, and he's coming to Utah State. And while he doesn't have a lot of experience in an Aggie uniform, he does have experience as a wide receiver, which some of these guys, it's kind of a mixed bag in that wide receiver room, because some came from other places, but they don't have quite the experience that Robinson does. So he's probably the most experienced wide receiver in that group for Utah State, at least regularly getting passes thrown in his direction during Division I football.
Yeah, that's something that can really benefit him early on, where he gets involved in the offense more. And he's, again, an archetype of wide receiver with that, slot and maybe a bit of the speed that isn't as present in some of the other, wide receiver areas, because they have some outside wide receivers. Demick Starling does have some speed. He could play inside in the slot, or he could play outside. We'll see exactly where the Aggies put him. But that, he can really separate himself, and that he has some experience, have really good hands. Again, he's a guy who's kind of excelled at get that short pass, get 7 or 8 yards. He's not averaging 12, 13, 14, 15 yards of reception, but he's able to consistently grab the deceptively difficult 4-yard reception over the middle on 3rd and 2 that you've got to hang on to and maybe withstand a hit from a linebacker and, move the chains. And that's a role that Robinson could potentially excel at. And then also, sneaking through the seam on a deep route, catching teams off guard who were expecting him to only run those, shallow cross routes.
Yeah, very true. The other player I was able to catch up with today is Charger Doty. He's a Utah native. And this is coming into his 2nd year for Utah State, plays safety for the Aggies. And got to ask him about the momentum building into this team this season and what he sees on the other side of McKay Hillstead. McKay Hillstead is throwing at him rather than to him, and get his comments on how the quarterback's doing for Utah State as well with Charger Doty at Utah State.
Utah State safety Charger Doty, you were on the team last year. What's different this year compared to last year?
I think the difference between this year and last year is the culture between the young and old guys, making sure that we stay together as a team at all times. No one's bigger than anybody. We're all on the same level, treating each other with the same respect, making sure that no matter what the depth chart is, we're all going to be perfectly fine, just based off our culture and the standard that we hold upon each other.
You were a young guy last year, but you got more and more involved as the season got on. And the end of the season, you're making plays, you're making tackles, you're knocking balls away. What was kind of the difference there last year for you to finally break through? And do you feel like there's momentum coming into this season for you?
I for sure think there's momentum. Definitely was pushed last year as a true freshman, just by coaches and players, because they knew I had the ability, but I didn't quite have the playbook and all those types of things down. And so progressively over the year, got better, learned a lot more about football alone, and then just being able to make plays in the right time, and then when your name's called, you go make a play.
You're a guy who, you're from the state of Utah. Your dad played at Weber State, if I'm not mistaken. So you're very familiar with football in the state. What made you decide to come to Utah State specifically to play for the Aggies?
I mean, Utah State, it was a really easy pick for me. I get to stay home, still about an hour and a half away from home. I get to play under Coach Mendenhall, who has a great record with wins, and just I've heard a lot of good things. I never heard any bad things from friends, family, coaches about Coach Mendenhall. And when I came here on my visit, it was everything that I was looking for, earned, not given, and that's all I've ever known, just based off of what my parents had taught me growing up.
How would you feel, or how would you assess where the defense is, specific about the defense, where you guys are now compared to where you were last year at about this time, concluding fall camp?
I think the biggest difference is that it took us quite a while last year just to get together as a team and realize that we're playing for something bigger than just ourselves. This year, going into spring ball, we knew that we needed a really tight culture, just using total effort and then holding each other with higher standards. And this has allowed us to just build momentum. And with all of this, we've been able to just put all of our playmakers together, and we've been playing really well.
You guys had a little team scrimmage on Saturday. What were some of the biggest takeaways for you and what you observed in that scrimmage?
I think that the biggest takeaway is that 2 minute, no matter how tired you are, you just got to always push through. We're going to be put in situations where it's going to come down to those last 2 to 4 minutes, and we got to be able to be in good shape at all times just to win those nitty-gritty games.
There appears to be a lot of depth and versatility in the safety position and the secondary generally. What are you seeing there? Like, is it going to be hard for some guys to see the field because there's so much depth, or does it provide more opportunities for Nick Howell to dial up different defensive schemes?
I think that it definitely opens up opportunities, knowing that we have so many weapons in our defense, especially our safety room. We're very versatile with who we can put in certain spots, and we got a lot of experienced guys, Brev and Chapman. We got a lot of experienced guys, and then we got a lot of young leaders and old leaders at the same time as well. So I think it's going to be easy for him to put us in and use us in different ways.
It's been kind of weird with like Bryson Taylor, no fault of his own, but it's kind of been weird. Like, he wasn't part of the team, then he was, and now maybe he's not again. I mean, not to get into like the ins and outs of what's going on with the eligibility issues, but what's it been like having him at least somewhat connected to the team even for a brief time?
Man, we love Bryson. I mean, we were all really excited, and it was a big factor for us that we get to get our nickel back. I mean, he went through a whole spring training with the Falcons, and so he's learned a lot of stuff, and then he's been able to talk to us and our team about the things that he saw, and we be able to adapt to what kind of he was experiencing and play into like our practices and our scrimmages and stuff like that.
Your observations of the offense. I mean, they're going against you every day in practice. What have you observed? How would you describe what you're seeing for the offense at Utah State this season?
I think that we have guys that are really gritty up front, and just our receivers and our running backs. We have a great leader at quarterback, and I just think that we got a lot of guys that can make plays on the offensive side of the ball, and I think we have a really good line that will give us time in the pocket as well.
You're one of the earlier guys, got to select your jersey number. You selected number 3.
Sir.
What significance is that number to you, or does it hold significance?
It doesn't really hold significance. I mean, I wore 32 last year, and I mean, I saw 3 up there. I was early pick. I was blessed to be picked that low in the early round, and I just think I looked at 3, and it was kind of looking back at me, and so it was easy to pick 3. I mean, I look up a lot to Derwin James as well, and so I try to play big like him. I'm not as big as him, but I definitely try to play like him for sure.
And then finally, you guys are essentially wrapping up fall camp here. You'll be transitioning to game prep for Idaho State. So it's all kind of behind you now for fall camp. Do you guys feel ready? Do you feel like there's still some needs that you guys need to still address?
For sure. I definitely think we're ready. Obviously, we're just going to have to dial in on schemes and personnel and all that stuff, but I think we're for sure ready.
Well, we're excited to see you guys coming up here soon. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Charger. Best of luck this season.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun catching up with Charger Doty, who earlier in the season we didn't really see him, but as the season went on, we saw more of him. He was in plays, he was on the field, then he starts making plays. He had some critical plays that he made against UNLV and Boise State and against Fresno. So when Utah State defense really started to get dialed in, we saw more of Charger Doty. I don't know that there's necessarily a coincidence there. And he's one of those guys who had that experience building last season that builds momentum into this. And he's part of a group in that secondary where there is a lot of talent. And it's going to be interesting to see how Nick Howell and Bronco Mendenhall go mad scientists and how they utilize those guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth, a lot of potential. So we'll see what experimentation they do. Obviously, defenses are very fluid. It's not just a depth chart, and you have these safeties and these corners and these linebackers. You have a mix for all different kinds of scenarios. And Utah State's going to play a variety of different kinds of offenses. They don't have to play the option anymore. They're not playing Air Force, but that's going to leave a lot of time for a lot of these defensive backs to make an impact, even if they're not on the starter, on that starting lineup. They're in that depth chart, and they're in there to make some plays.
Yeah. We need to take a quick time out here on the Full Court Press. If you want to weigh in, any observations that you had from the interviews with Charger Doty or Javon Robinson, and we'll continue to look at Utah State football. Coming up on the other side, we'll reveal our next player in our top 25 Aggies. We're up to number 4 on our list. That may be an interesting hint also as to who it might be. But we'll reveal who that is next here on the Full Court Press. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. I just realized that fans listening on the YouTube may not have heard the interviews.
Oh, really?
I forget these extra buttons need to be selected. I keep forgetting. I swear I've talked to our engineering about making that a default, but we'll post the interviews independently on the YouTube feed.
Yeah, we'll have to. That or I'm going to have to edit things with the stream. I don't know if I can edit the sound back in. I could technically just take the stream down and republish it as a video. We'll see.
We'll see.
If you're listening on YouTube, you also know that Eric snuck in some on-theme bump music.
Yeah, we got some Dolly Parton bump music going on today.
4781 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. R.I.P. Dolly.
Yes. She was a national institution. Yeah.
Indeed. I have a few more texts.
We got a few other texts going in. Should we address those or go to Aggies, the top 25 Aggies real quick?
Let's get to them really quick. Let's see. Yeah, let's get to those real quick.
Okay. 4475. This was sent in early this morning. Early riser, 4475. With the addition of Hall and the discussion of so many guys who could compete for the starting position, I'm excited to see the bench depth we will have. And it might be that without huge egos on the team, we can keep fresh legs on the court from start to finish, which is especially important come March. Yeah, and Utah State making it officially official. They issued a release just this afternoon, shortly before we came on the air, announcing the addition of Dallin Hall to the Utah State men's basketball program.
Yeah, and see, this is the interesting thing, because like because I talked about trying to build a rotation. And I go in with certain parameters, like I want the starting point guard to play 26, 27 minutes. I want Mason Falslev to play 31 minutes. Like those are kind of assumptions that I have in my mind. And the starting center has to play like 20 plus minutes. And, these guys, you want to play this many minutes. But honestly, what if Mason plays 28 minutes instead of 32, 34? What if AJ Bates plays 24 minutes? What if Dallin Hall only plays 23, 24 minutes? And you split a lot of these minutes, and over the course of...
You're saving a lot of miles on those feet.
Over the course of 30 games, that's 90 to 100 minutes. That's 3 to 4 games worth of minutes that you're saving one little piece at a time. We had long conversations last year about the impact of depth and being able to make runs in the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament, and Utah State clearly had the most legs of anyone in the Mountain West tournament. They just blitzed everybody.
Yeah, they did.
Teams that blew the Aggies out in the regular season, when you had to play 3 games in 3 days, the Aggies were like, guess what?
Let's go.
We're just more ready than you are.
Yep.
And then in the NCAA tournament, they were able to kind of outlast Villanova. So could Utah State, normally you think, okay, your stars got to play 32, 33 minutes. Your other key starters got to play between 25 and 30. If you just break those rules and go 10, 11, 12 players deep, I don't know if they'll go 12 players deep, but if you have a rotation that is truly like 10, 11 players deep, then you're not really playing anybody more than 25 minutes per game.
Or it allows the coaching staff to ride the hot hand.
Yeah.
And not feel like we're rolling the dice if we keep this player on the court for too much longer.
Yeah, and or maybe with those averages, maybe one game your star players do play 35 minutes, but the next game they only play 25 because one of the bench players has the hot hand, as you say.
Yeah,
that's certainly a possibility.
5338 texting in the 5338 Sports Reeducation Academy and Think Tank executive offices are currently being swept for bugs. Results are pending.
Yeah, wasn't that based off of Ole Miss? Apparently having the FBI.
Apparently they asked the FBI to come in and sweep the football offices for listening devices.
Look, Lane Kiffin is kind of a scumbag, but he's not that much of a scumbag.
It was a little extreme.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to our next player on our top 25 Aggies. I promise the audio should go through for those on the YouTube feed.
By the way, apparently the interviews did come through on the YouTube feed. And I should have known that because of the way we play the interviews. Actually, my worry is whether or not they would have played over the air. Let us know if you heard let us know if the
if you just heard minutes of dead air.
Yeah, I think everything went through all right.
We would have heard something, but Let's get into our next player. Our countdown continues. We started at 25. We're inching our way towards number 1. And today we find ourselves at number 4 on our top 25 Aggies for 2026. That's the right year. Let's see who it is today.
Cache Valley Media Group's Top 25 Aggies of 2026 countdown continues with our next player revealed on the list of the top 25 Utah State football players for the upcoming football season. At number 4 is safety Brevin Hamblin. The 6'5" defensive back is entering his second season with the Aggies. Last year, he recorded 114 tackles, the second most on the team. He also tallied 8 passes defended, 1 interception, which he returned for a touchdown, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. Hamblin is receiving national preseason hype, being named to the Jim Thorpe Award watch list and the Bronco Nagurski Award watch list. His presence on the defense will be a significant boon as the Aggies look to take a big step forward in 2026.
Yes, Brevin Hamblin, number 4, and he wears number 4.
Yeah,
that was not planned.
That was the hint. No, that certainly wasn't planned.
But it worked out. Now, here's a guy that, I'll be honest, I was very skeptical about somebody coming from Utah Tech and being the starting safety at Utah State last year. And there were games where you could tell this was somebody who wasn't quite up to speed with the speed and physicality of
I was about to say literally
FBS.
up to speed in a lot of cases.
Yes, because I was too often seeing the back of his jersey because he's chasing someone. But it continues to improve. He's got an interesting size and length for a safety. 6'5", but they can use him to create or to take away space for opposing quarterbacks. And he's a guy that continues to work hard. This coaching staff very high on his work ethic, and one of the first guys to be able to select his number. And that shows a lot about what he's been doing in the offseason to prepare himself to have an encore, an improved season this year.
Yeah, he's someone who fits really well into that kind of archetype of a safety who's a bit more of a run stopper, a bit more of a tackler. I mean, it showed in that he had 114 tackles, was second on the team. That's where his strength is. He's not that strong as a cover guy, but he's not incompetent, or at least he got better in that regard. Yeah, there were some plays early on where, there were highlights of other players running away from him. And, photos of players running for touchdowns, and he's in the background. You can see Brevin Hamblin there, but he caught an interception, returned it for a touchdown. I forget in which game. I know one of the pictures we've used of him is him running it back into the end zone. But then he had 8 pass deflections. He also forced a couple of fumbles, recovered one of those fumbles himself. Had a couple of tackles for loss, was in on 2 different sacks. So he's somebody who can make an impact in a number of different ways. I said it before, he kind of fits maybe that nickel position where he can be a little bit in between linebacker and safety, be a cover guy, but also kind of playing in the box, able to step up and stop the run or get to the outside and help cover the edges along with the edge setters, the edge rushers. So that's, I think, where he'll again kind of find his niche within this defense. Is obviously he's in the defensive backfield. Obviously he's going to have coverage obligations, but he's also somebody who's going to go in there and make some big hits. And I think he'll again be a big impact for this Aggies team. And kind of like a lot of the rest of the defense, like last year he had to get up to speed, and then all right, he's up to speed. There's a little bit of summer break cobwebs you got to shake off, and he'll need to kind of come back from that. But he's in a better position starting now than he was last season. And there's a similar amount of growth that he can go through this season that he did last season. So you can imagine the kind of player that Brevin Hamblin can be this season.
Yeah. And he was originally, he told us at the start of fall camp, he was originally recruited as a linebacker. But then once he got here, they said, you know what? We're going to use you as a safety instead. And so sometimes that can be, kind of a nickel, which is basically an extra linebacker in the mix. So, but he is versatile, and Utah State has a lot of depth in the secondary and at safety. So that gives them some unique opportunities to play with Brevin Hamblin in different ways. And he proved to be an improved player as the season went on, and more of that experience is going to pay dividends this year for Utah State.
Yeah, and again, that word you used, versatile. Like that's one of the most important things for defenders to have these days is being versatile, being able to do multiple things. Edge rusher, the defensive line, obviously, you got to be able to rush the passer, but you also got to be able to sit in your gap and stop rushers from getting through that gap, whether you're getting the tackle or just taking up blockers. As linebackers, you got to be able to step up in the run, but you also got to be able to chase these tight ends and running backs when they're going out for pass.
Yep.
Or fill your zone, and sometimes, for at least a few steps, keep up with the wide receiver. Defensive backs, they've obviously got to be able to step up against the run, but they've also got to be players who can be fast enough to guard the smaller, quicker receivers, but not too small so that they get, mossed by a bunch of these taller wide receivers. And Brevin Hamblin, he's trying to kind of thread that needle between being a linebacker and a defensive back. But the best players will thread that needle and be able to find that right balance of being able to cover multiple areas of the field on defense, because that's just something that makes you incredibly valuable as a player, and you can have just such an outsized impact. It's why Bronco Mendenhall was so excited about Bryson Taylor. He said, we get two starters because it's the guy who's able to play corner and safety. Is he a superstar at either of those positions? Maybe not, but that versatility makes him a valuable player. It's also why it's like the fact that he may or may not be eligible is also kind of annoying right now.
Yeah, very much. Quickly to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line 6391. Interviews were heard on the app, at least. So.
Yeah, I think as I walk through the everything in my head and look at the board, I think everything actually did come through okay.
Yes.
Had to get a second think of it. I'm not necessarily quick on my feet, but I can figure things out eventually.
Yes. Yes. So thank you for the feedback, at least the positive.
Yeah, that helps us when we're like, wait, did that work?
Did we do this right?
Having the roll call on all this can be important feedback.
Yes. So yeah, Brevin Hamblin, number 4 on our list of top 25 Aggies for 2026.
Let's go ahead and take a break. We're up against one of those. When we come back, we're actually going to shift to talk about Utah State women's basketball. Haven't talked about it much lately, but some news coming out. Their non-conference schedule getting released, so we'll look at some of the teams on there. How difficult is this schedule? I think they're finding a good mix between teams that are obviously going to be tough and test them, but also get some winnable games and help this team, this women's basketball team, kind of ramp up and hopefully finally have that kind of, initial bounce back season.
Start to create a foundation they can build on.
Get that 10, 15 win season to really give this program the jolt it needs. So we'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press.
Cache Valley's biggest garage sale is coming up this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's at the Eccles Ice Center parking lot in North Logan. Over 50 vendors will be there selling furniture, tools, collectibles, home goods. And I believe there's still a little bit of time left. If you want to get your own booth, you still can register. Get all the details at CacheValleyGarageSale.com.
So Utah State women's basketball announced yesterday, actually shortly before our show. I didn't notice it until after the show, but Wes Brooks announcing the team's 2026 non-conference schedule. They've got a total of 15 games on there. 15? I thought I counted only like 13. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I only count 14. I'm going to have to go check this. I'm going to have to go double check this. Because it includes their multi-team event. But yeah, so I'm going to have to go add some things up here just to make sure that I have everything properly. But yeah.
Is there a game, sometimes in a multi-team event, there might be a game that the opponent's not known because it depends on who you play and who
possibly, although I was looking it up because they're playing.
If you win or lose.
It's a Friday, Saturday. And there are 3 teams participating in the multi-team event: UC Irvine, Jacksonville State, and Utah State. So unless they're playing themselves,
no, well then that should be it.
Unless I'm just counting wrong or missing something, I'll have to double check that. But yeah, these non-conference games for the Aggies, a mix of teams that are like almost all of their teams on their schedule are either like in the roughly top 80 or like outside the top like 220. There's like 3 teams that are kind of in between those 2 ranges. So it's a mix of teams that are going to be really challenging and a mix of teams that are going to kind of be in that, this is a team that for some of them it'll be a bit of a coin flip, but a very winnable game. This is going to depend on how well Utah State is playing. They're actually going to be playing at home a lot early on, so let's kind of jump into this. They're going to start the season off November 2nd. That's a Monday. Monday, November 2nd, they're going to play Westminster, non-Division I team. I think Westminster actually beat the Aggies a few years ago. There was maybe it was an exhibition that they played.
I think you're right. They're an NAIA. Well, they used to be. I don't know if they're division.
Yeah, I forget
still
exactly
that or Division II.
I don't know exactly where
they're lower level.
They're a non-Division I team.
Yeah.
So team the Aggies should be beating, but in recent years we've seen them lose to teams that they should be beating in this situation. So this is something that the Aggies need to be on top of. Then they'll play Loyola Marymount, who last year at the end of the season had a net of 273. So that's certainly a winnable game. Let's remind everyone where Utah State ended up. They were 289 for reference. So when you're looking at all these teams,
should be in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's looking at all these teams and talking about where their end of season net was. Keep in mind Utah State at 289.
So then they go on the road for the first time.
Yeah, their first road game, and this can be their toughest early season test. They're going to be at USC, a team that finished 23rd. In fact, it's based on last year's net. This is the toughest team on their schedule. It's also on the road. USC, really tough team. Of course, bit of a homecoming for, why am I forgetting her name?
But she played at UCLA.
Leah Gales?
Yeah.
No, she played at USC.
Oh, she did?
Unless I've been wrong before.
I thought she played at UCLA. I could be wrong. Anyway, while we fact check Eric.
I am fact checking Eric, and I am right. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. She was right.
Played at USC, so a bit of a homecoming there. Oh, I couldn't remember if Utah State played USC last season. But yeah, so they'll go to USC. That'll be November 8th. So they're going to play on the 2nd, the 6th, the 8th. Then they'll come back home on November 11th to take on Idaho State, who was actually 133rd in the net. So this is actually on the tougher end. They're kind of in that middle. There's a bunch that are in like the top 80. There's a bunch that are like below 220, and Idaho State's kind of in that middle ground where they're 133. But then November 13th, a couple of days later, Bethune-Cookman. I don't know how to say that first one.
Sure.
Bethune? Bethune?
Probably not that.
Bethune? Just butchering this college. They rank 345, and that's a home game. So this should be one of their more winnable games for Utah State at home against a team that has struggled even more than the Aggies in a lot of ways. Then they get a bit of a break. 5 days. They're going to be at BYU, a team that was just outside the top 50 in the net last year. Really solid BYU team. So that's going to be a tough game. After that, probably I think it's one of their longest breaks of the non-conference, from November 18th all the way to November 27th. Bit of a break there. They're going to be at a UC Irvine hosted tournament over in Irvine, California, where I believe, it doesn't say on the non-conference, but when I was looking up this just on Google and looking at a quick overview, so don't completely quote me on this, but from what I was able to find, is that it's a tournament that will include Utah State, UC Irvine, and Jacksonville State. So presumably the Aggies will play UC Irvine, who finished 84th, who they're just barely outside of that kind of arbitrary cutoff that I threw in there, that top 80. And then Jacksonville State is 220, who's kind of on the high end of that other cutoff I threw. So they're kind of maybe both a little closer to the middle ground, but they're both kind of in those two different camps of one of the tougher teams, one of the slightly easier teams. But a solid little multi-team event for Utah State. Participate in what will kind of be I guess, a kind of a true road game with UC Irvine hosting it.
Yeah.
Even though it may or may not technically be a neutral site, but then like a true neutral site game with Jacksonville State.
Yeah, that's over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Opportunity to go away, do something a little bit different. And then the tour of Utah continues when they get back from that.
Yeah, they'll come back to the Beehive State, but we'll go to Salt Lake City to take on Utah. And they're a team that finished 60th. So similar to BYU, both solid Big 12 teams. And then they're going to be alternating home and away through basically all of December. So December 1st, they're at Utah. December 5th, they're home against San Jose State, who was 320th in the net last season. Then they're at Utah Valley. They're going to do the whole road gambit of teams in the state of Utah.
The tour of Utah on the road.
Utah Valley, they're 194 in the net last year. So again, kind of in that middle, but trending a little bit towards the below average. They will finally get a home game against a team in the state of Utah, I guess outside of Westminster. Weber State, December 12th, they'll be home against Weber State.
The Utah State on their website says that's at Ogden.
Their press release says
The press release says it's at home. Or maybe their website is something doesn't jive.
So, we got conflicting reports here. We'll double
on
check
the USU official athletic site, but
just like their schedule page.
yes,
We'll have to double check that. Because on the release it says it'll be at the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum. So home against Weber State, then at Idaho, another solid team. You may not think of Idaho State and Idaho as being solid teams. That's maybe more in men's basketball, because women's basketball, Idaho State's 133, Idaho is 100. So these are both solid teams. Will still be fairly close to home, but then they're going to cap off non-conference, at least according to this press release that I'm looking at. They'll be hosting San Diego on December 19th, and San Diego 268 in the net.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting collection of teams for Utah State. And I think, as you said perfectly, that this is a collection of teams that are somewhat on equal footing as Utah State, maybe some a little bit below, some a bit ahead. But these are competitive opportunities for Utah State to get wins. And there's going to be certainly games on the schedule that are going to stretch the Aggies and be a real kind of barometer tests for them, like where they need to be. And see, sometimes those can still be great opportunities to learn and throw everything out there just to see what you've got. And say, you know what, we competed with them, and that will prepare us for what's to come as we get into conference play.
Yeah, I'd say the schedule is just about 50-50. Games that are going to stretch the Aggies and games that are going to be very winnable and that you should expect a victory in that game.
All right, got to take a quick timeout. I know we got some texts coming in. We'll get to those, but take a brief timeout. We'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
Summer heat and winter cold is something that we both have to deal with. Deal with both of them. If I can talk, it's this summer heat, guys.
Yeah.
Napa Auto Parts can help out with the car battery that's going to take the most of it. My brain is taking some of it, but your car battery is also going to get impacted by the heat and the cold. So have Napa Auto Parts do a free battery checkup. If it needs replacing, you can get up to a $25 gift card with the purchase of a Napa Legend battery, so you can buy some other things in addition to the expense of getting a new car battery. And if you want to kind of keep it safe, you can get a booster pack 100 amp jump starter for only $129. Kind of peace of mind. If you can't get somebody out to help you jump your car, you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
So
Great tools.
Yeah, all that and a whole lot more. Locally owned Napa Auto Parts. Locations all around Cache Valley, and they're best of Northern Utah Gold winner.
Let's get to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Got a few texts coming in. 8632. When we were talking about Utah State women's basketball, going to say this is Brooks' last chance, hottest seat at USU.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody will be under any delusions that, Wes Brooks is certainly on the hot seat. I know Kayla Ard got 4 seasons, but she might have kind of gotten that initial season kind of like, well, let's ignore that. And then going 11-19 in her second season may have bought her a little bit more time. But yeah, if Wes Brooks can't really show signs of improvement with this program, like, you're in the Pac-12 now. The standard is higher. Wes Brooks knows that. Like, if you're asking him, it's like, you got to show results. We've made a lot of excuses. We've gotten a lot of slack. Like, Wes Brooks got dealt a pretty crummy hand with the state that the program he took over is in. But at some point, whether you're bluffing, whether you're getting lucky, like, at some point you got to show results, or the next person is going to step up and take on that difficult task. And whether or not that's fair, you can certainly make that argument. Kayla Ard's struggles might have ended her coaching career.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of her, the struggles she went through at Utah State. And for Wes Brooks, hopefully you never want to see anyone have a career-ending thing. But Wes Brooks he's done his best to try and recruit and turn this program around. But for all the praise of getting the caliber of recruits he's gotten, and he's had some bad luck with some injury, especially last year, at some point you got to put up or shut up. And that's just kind of the unfortunate thing. At the end of the day, ball's got to go in the hoop.
Yeah.
As was it Larry Krystkowiak said, ball got to go in the hoop.
Yeah, and you got to prevent the other guys from doing that too.
So at some point, I would love to see Wes Brooks, because he has put in blood, sweat, and tears into this program, and it's kind of frustrating to see that result in only 10 wins over the last couple of seasons. But you got to get it at least 10 wins this season. I think get closer to 15. And there are 7 or 8 winnable games in this non-conference. Get yourself another 7 or 8 wins in conference play. And I think that secures Wes Brooks his personal future at Utah State, but also really would go a long way to turning this Utah State program around.
Yeah, I don't know how hot his seat is for Cam Walker, but it's got to be warm, and it's got to be warming up. And so this is a schedule, as we talked about, that will provide opportunities for Utah State to get some wins, but there's also going to be some real massive challenges for this team, and we'll just see, can they stay competitive? Or are they going to just get blown out and get embarrassed? So that's going to be a real tell for this basketball team. Stick around, a lot more next hour here on the Full Court Press on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to hour number 2 here on the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. We're on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com. You can also hear us on the 1069 The Fan mobile app, or you can watch the show on YouTube. We're streaming the show to YouTube. The Fan KLGN is where you can find us there. You can also drop in a comment on the YouTube chat. But you can also text us on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, and appreciate Braden Clark dropping in the confirmation that, yes, the audio did work on YouTube. So thank you for that, for the comment, as we were a little nervous about having the right buttons selected, and we're there. I think we're there. It worked out. A little nervous, but I think we're good. We're in the clear.
That's good. Sometimes there's
it's good to get the thumbs up.
Sometimes there's a couple of hiccups, but we're working through Eric. Getting him used to running the stream.
Yes. So a couple things we wanted to get into this hour. Last hour we had fun conversations, hearing from Charger Doty and Javon Robinson as Utah State football is wrapping up fall camp. Get some of their comments and thoughts about how that's gone so far, and revealed number 4 on our list of top 25 Aggies for 2025. We also got very Utah State focused, because we also talked about the Utah State women's basketball non-conference schedule, which has been revealed today. But this hour, shifting a little bit and talking about the Utah Jazz, as the Athletic has recently put together some different lists and rankings for teams in the NBA. And kind of interesting to note what's going on with the Jazz in their offseason. It's been a busy one. They've been making some trades. They were active and picking a really promising pick in the draft. But, are they going to be a solid team or not? Still, I guess, to be determined. But the folks at The Athletic, they don't really think the Jazz are going to be all that good. They're going to be improved, but maybe not world beaters yet at this point.
I think that there's a need for caution. I'm seeing some Jazz fans that are kind of like they're propping up the Jazz like they're going to be this like top 15, maybe even top 12, or bordering on top 10. Like, we need to pump the brakes a little bit on that, because keep in mind, they're still going to have some relatively young players with Keontae George, one of your potential starters there at shooting guard with Peterson is a rookie. And rookies, while they can be statistically impressive, are rarely true drivers of winning. You also have what may be the worst center room in the entire NBA. As decent as Yusuf Nurkic can be, they don't exactly have any world, like they barely have a single starting caliber center on the team, unless you include Jaren Jackson Jr. as a potential starter, in which case, yeah, you got kind of one. But it's the front court is kind of iffy in terms of its ability to dominate the paint, particularly around the rim and especially on defense. Again, kind of outside of Jaren Jackson, but he's kind of more in the versatile, high level impact on defense rather than just a true rim protector.
Yeah. So the Athletic put the Jazz at number 22.
Yeah. So the number 22, which isn't, it does feel a little low, because I think the Jazz will be pushing like 17, 18, because like I'm seeing them kind of right on the edge of the playoffs, where they're going to be somewhere in that 7 to 10, like basically in the play-in. Like at their peak, they might be pushing to be just out, just above the play-in, I should say, which I guess at that, depending on how the West versus East looks, I guess theoretically could push them inside the top 15 and top 12. But I see them more in that either barely top 15 or just outside of it. And that's kind of their realistic peak, unless something really catches us off guard with how the Utah Jazz are going to be playing. So I think the Athletics ranking is maybe a tad low. But the thing that I kind of found interesting was kind of one of their summaries of the Utah Jazz, where like it's kind of this last line where there's one thing that I kind of agree with and one thing that I'm not necessarily agreeing with. The last line is saying this looks like a bad passing team prone to widespread defensive issues. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the potential for widespread defensive issues. There are some questions that the Jazz need to answer in terms of their ability to play defense with the players that constitute the roster. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and his ability to impact the paint, his ability to be versatile in defending some of the bigger forwards that we see in the NBA, all of those different things and more are why the Jazz traded for someone like him and his ability to impact the game in that way.
Yeah.
But like we saw with Rudy Gobert, one player can certainly raise the floor of a defense. He will not make the entire defense work.
No.
Guys like Keontae George, who have been a net negative on defense, he's got to improve and be at bare minimum carrying his weight. Darren Peterson talks a big game about playing defense. I also heard that song and dance from Donovan Mitchell. What happened with that? I'm not going to believe it until I see it. Can Lauri Markkanen be he's got the length and he's kind of a unique player on offense, but can he bring that same thing where he might be playing small forward a lot? Can he bring that at that position? Can Yusuf Nurkic and just anybody in the center room actually provide competent rim protection, especially when Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't on the floor? They've brought in some interesting defensive pieces on the wing, but pretty much all of them are bench players.
Yeah, Josh Okogie.
Yeah.
Bez Mbang.
Now, not so much him. He's
just
play.
coming off the bench.
But like some of their most interesting wing defender pieces are all bench players.
Yeah.
Guys you're not expecting to close lineup. So when you need to play defense and there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you're going to have one guy who's known for being an above average defender throughout his career.
And we haven't mentioned Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
Cody Williams. Are these guys, are they improving? I mean, Jazz are trying to sell fans on Cody Williams being this, having this total resurgence as a defensive stopper, but we didn't really see that in the summer league. And
Well,
if you can't do that in the summer league, you're definitely not going to do it in the real show.
He got cooked to heck and back by a rookie. I know that rookie was AJ DeBonsa, but if you're supposed to be a good defender and you got cooked by a guy playing in his literal first NBA-esque minutes.
Yeah, and you're coming into your third season in the NBA.
Their whole thing was, in that summer league game was, all right, AJ, go at Cody Williams. I'm not buying it. And so I'm not buying with Cody Williams. I'm not buying, and I'm not willing to believe it until I see it from a lot of the Jazz players.
Yeah, so I think there's clear concerns about Utah's defense. I think offensively, this team has some really intriguing pieces.
Yeah,
where they can come at you in different ways. I think they got slashers, they've got shooters. They do have some size if they want to utilize it. Maybe not elite center at the rim in the dunker spot, but they got guys who can attack the rim. But the article, kind of its closing salvo at the Jazz, is calling them a bad passing team, which I don't know if I buy that, because this is a team that I think has multiple guys who can handle the ball, are comfortable with handling the ball. And even with the bigs, this is like, hey, this is a team with some bigs, but can they really do much? I mean, Yusuf Nurkic, this is a guy he was throwing down triple doubles for a stretch there when he wanted to. And I think this is a good passing team for this Utah Jazz. So I don't know where this comment comes from.
So I think I can maybe identify, but let me throw down some numbers for the Utah Jazz this last season, where a lot of these same players are coming back. There's some changes, but we'll get into how those changes aren't necessarily going to negate all of this. So the Utah Jazz, and these numbers come from NBA.com, their stats page, where they do a lot of tracking here. The Jazz were 15th in total passes per game. But that's just how many passes you threw. It's not necessarily an indication of quality. Where do the Jazz rank in assists per game? Second in the NBA. Bad passing team. Secondary assist, which, okay, maybe you can make an argument here, because maybe secondary assist, that indicates, like, are you passing around, making quality passes? The Jazz do rank 22nd, but the gap between them and the number 8 team in secondary assists is the same as the gap between the number 8 team and the number 2 team. There are teams that are really good at this, and there's everybody else who are all within a pretty slim margin. 0.7 secondary assists per game. Oh my goodness, you're such a better passing team. The number 8th team has 0.7 more secondary assists than the Jazz do per game. Potential assists, the Jazz were 4th in potential assists. Assist points created, they were 5th. Assist to pass ratio, they were tied for 1st with the Atlanta Hawks. The Jazz were a good passing team. They moved the ball around. They were unselfish. Now, okay, is this going to change? Larry Markkinen's going to play a little bit more. And he does have a relatively low assist rate for a power forward, only 10% last year, and that was his career high. Most other players at power forward, they're in the teens. You get to the highest levels, you got some guys that are in the 20s and 30s in assist percentage at power forward. But Jaren Jackson Jr., who hasn't had a very high assist rate, when he came to the Jazz and played those 3 games, an assist rate of 20%. Small sample size in 3 games, but you put him in the Jazz system, and suddenly he was slinging that ball around as part of this team game. He really stepped in and was playing a fantastic team game with the Jazz. And then Jusuf Nurkic, the guy who was throwing down triple-doubles all over the place last year. So I know the passing is going to be coming from weird places where you're almost going to get as much quality passing from Jaren Jackson Jr., Jusuf Nurkic, and Kyle Filipowski, 3 6'11" guys. You're going to get as much from them as you are from Isaiah Collier, Keontae George, and Darren Peterson, but you're going to get passing with this team. And it's going to be team passing. It's not having one guy like Chris Paul just passing the ball around. You're going to have at least 3 players on the court who are solid playmakers at all times. Sometimes you're going to have 4 players on the court who have an assist rate above 20 because that's just the way the Jazz play.
Yeah, that's Will Hardy's system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of everybody has touches. It's not this one guy is kind of controlling how the offense is going to go and directing traffic. It's a lot of guys moving around. And last year's team, look, the second half of the season, even before the second half of the season began, it was G League guys, 10-day contracts. I mean, the numbers last year are it's a smokescreen. We don't really know what's on the other side because it was such a different level of skill. The system was still there, but the skill executing it vastly different last year for much of the season compared to what could be happening this year with guys who know what they're doing, are skilled, are talented, and are out there going to try to win some games.
The Jazz were putting out the dregs of the G League and still finished 9th in the NBA in points per game. What's going to happen when this offense?
That tells you all you need to know about Will Hardy's offense.
Yeah. What's this offense going to do when you actually put in guys who are capable of being more efficient scorers, producing more efficient shots, and who are going to hit those shots at a higher efficiency? Now, the defense fully reflected the caliber of player they were putting out there. They were dead last in the NBA in points allowed per game. I think they were just about they were 29th in the league in defensive rating, points per 100 possessions. So the Jazz definitely need to improve on defense, but this offense has a lot of potential. So we have a few texts in the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 8632, talking about having the worst center room in the NBA and saying good thing center is the least impactful position, and we were probably going to stretch that position anyway. No big deal. Wouldn't say no big deal. Because when you say that the center is the least impactful position, there's definitely truth there in that unless you have a Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, you really just need someone in there who's going to rebound, be a bit of a pick and roll target, throw down some dunks, and provide some rim protection. If you have someone like that, then you can make it work. And you can just focus, your offense and to other positions, and then just get enough from that position on defense. That's where I think Jaren Jackson Jr. can, he'll probably have to make some real impact at center and really help with that rim protection because Jusuf Nurkic isn't going to provide that. Nurkic will give you rebounding, and he'll give you enough scoring, but they are still at times going to feel it, especially when what are you going to do when you have to defend Jokic? What are you going to have to do when you defend Joel Embiid? Maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. helps out, but then suddenly then Nurkic has to go guard a power forward and you're running into different problems. So they're going to feel it, but it will be interesting to see how Will Hardy schemes things up, or at least tries to scheme things up to cover for that in those games. Does he use Jaren Jackson Jr. to make up for some of their deficiencies at center? So will they make up for their lack of a center where they are a bit stronger at other positions?
True. A couple more texts coming in, 6391. The Jazz social media team has done a great job hyping up the fans this summer, particularly this last week. If you haven't seen it, kind of cool that Ryan Smith, Will Hardy, Keontae George, and Jaren Jackson Jr. flew out to Finland to spend time with Lauri Markkanen because he's playing for his country. FIBA World Cup qualifiers are taking place, and they flew out there to support him, to hang out with him, to train with him. And I think that's awesome. And they're not the only ones doing this. Luka Doncic brought a bunch of the Lakers to Slovenia to hang out with him, and a few other players have done some similar things. But I still think it speaks to the leadership and the connectivity of the top people of this organization for the Jazz and what they're trying to do. So, a bit of an aside there. Get back to the text. Between that, drafting Peterson and the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, I see why people are over the moon about this team. I'm not quite there, but I am psyched for the season. Should be good sports year for my fandom, considering the Mammoth also look great. USU basketball is going to make the Elite Eight at a minimum this year.
Yeah, I think well said, especially that kind
I love
of
the confidence there, 6391.
I think it's well said on that kind of the first half of that those two texts where like you can see why people are really excited. Again, personally, and so I'm kind of agreeing with 6391. Not there yet. There's some things we want to see. But like, yeah, there are reasons to be excited about this team, and that's what's making this offseason for the Jazz way more exciting. You're playing with house money in year one. Nobody expects this team to win the championship. Everything positive they do, like if they completely flop and fail, like yeah, people are going to be frustrated.
Yes,
but like there is every reason to expect they're not going to be that team, and so there are a lot of reasons to be excited and really let the dogs loose on this one, where these guys are going to go out there and actually be trying for wins and not be held back by the front office who was trying to tank the for draft position.
9310 texting in, my favorite stat about Donovan's defense. Donovan Mitchell is ranked 572nd in average defensive speed last year in the NBA. Only James Harden is worse. They're like on the same team.
Is that the measure of like how like their average like movement speed on defense, kind of measuring defensive activity?
I've never heard this stat.
Let me clarify
average
that.
Defensive speed.
Yeah, because I've not seen that, but I know that's kind of a thing that the NBA has so much tracking. That's something you could literally track. But yeah, I watched James Harden. My goodness, watching James Harden on defense in the playoffs, like he looked like me defending players out there. And I cannot emphasize how much of a terrible insult that is to somebody for me to compare my defense. Because if you've ever watched me play defense, I'm the worst defender you have ever seen in your life, primarily because I have 0 foot speed. Like, I am terrible on defense, and it is a serious skill issue. So me comparing James Harden to my, or at least again, because this is relative, because if you put James Harden on, my pickup team, he'd be the best defender that ever lived. But like relative to NBA defenders, he looks like me playing defense in my morning pickup group. And that is the most catastrophic insult I can I'm not slapping him in the face with a glove. I'm slapping him in the face with a nuke when I give him that insult there. Like that is just absolutely terrible stuff that I've seen from him on defense. Like, he's not even trying. And the Cavs are trying. They just extended him.
And they just gave him a bunch of money and gave him more time.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
A couple other texts coming in. 9315. The Jazz just need to find a guy working on cars in a garage and have a complete team in the center position on the cheap.
There aren't too many 7'4" guys hanging around in car garages anymore. They're getting offered 6-figure salaries at random P4 teams because they're 7'4".
Because they are.
If you were that tall, just go to your local power conference school and say, just lie through your teeth about how much basketball experience you have, and they'll probably give you $100,000.
Do you have a pulse?
Yeah, I know you're referring to Mark Eaton, 935.
Yes. There aren't too many big guys that fit that historical description.
Yeah, I know. Mark Eaton was a remarkable story where, just some junior college coach, I think, just found him. I forget what his name was, but just saw him working in a garage. Like, you play basketball? And The answer was kind of no.
Yeah.
But in the end, the answer was yes.
Got the coaching and developed into a very stout defensive player.
Very,
in the
very
NBA.
special defensive player there. So
Yes.
some NBA records. But yeah, I think we've got to take a break here. I think we've run through most of our discussion here with the Utah Jazz. But yeah, maybe a little underrated, which is fine. There's no need for the Jazz to be particularly highly rated in power rankings in August. But I thought it was really interesting where it's one of those phenomenon of I think someone is wrong on the internet. So I had to go on a bit of a rant about the passing thing.
Had to prove him wrong.
But the defensive concerns are real, and like I'm a little pessimistic about it, but willing to be proven wrong. That's kind of where I'm at on the Jazz defense. Pessimistic, but willing to be proven wrong by people who are much smarter in basketball than I am.
Yeah, we're going to take a timeout here in the Full Court Press, but when we come back, some exciting news about their G League affiliate.
Yeah, the Utah Jazz.
A very familiar name.
Yeah, at least
joining the Utah Stars.
At least in the frame of reference of a Utah State fan, it's really exciting news. Most other Utah Jazz fans are like, "Oh, all right." But for Utah State fans, this should be pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting stuff. We'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press. There we are. Hi, folks.
We hadn't come back from commercial yet.
Oh, yes, there we are.
At least on the YouTube stream.
We're a little delayed there.
That's what I was checking there. So
Yes, I'm
luckily,
glad you looked.
we missed the
I
live.
was too excited to get Dolly Parton rolling in on the bump
well,
music.
YouTube gets to miss that anyway. So we just
Yeah.
got to make sure that we're back on air there. So
Yeah, we're good.
But,
So,
yeah.
Utah Stars announcing some things with their roster and a familiar name joining their team. It's a familiar name for us, at least. Taylor Funk. And he's had opportunities in the G League. He's kind of struggled to make his way to an NBA floor, but Utah Stars is going to give him a chance.
Yeah, so he started off his career in the G League. He's been in the Summer League a little bit, but he was with the Capital City Go-Go, the Washington Wizards G League affiliate. He spent 2 seasons there. Was a solid player in the G League. In those 2 seasons, he was kind of like one season he was a mostly full-time starter. Another season he came off the bench, but actually played more minutes per game in his second season coming off the bench, and actually averaged what are still career highs. He shot like 39% from 3. Mostly about 80% of his shots in the G League have been 3-pointers, kind of reflecting a little bit of his role at Utah State, where he was out there to shoot 3-pointers and
Be a stretch 4.
Yeah, be a stretch 4. And he's really leaning into that role in the G League. That's where his professional skill set is, his strongest skill set. Gets some rebounds, gets some assists. But generally his biggest strength is being a great stretch 4. Although last season he was with the San Diego Clippers. I believe that's probably the Los Angeles Clippers.
I would imagine there's a connection.
That's
Just a hunch.
Probably. Just a bit of a hunch. So that's where he spent 3 seasons. So in 3 seasons in the G League, at least in the regular season, they also have these other like tournaments and things like that. And I can never get like, can you combine a player's, like I have to personally do the math on like regular season plus this like tip-off tournament thing they do, which is like 15 games worth usually. So that's like half a season's worth in the G League. And, you know, in those, Taylor Funk has actually done pretty well. Like last year for the Clippers, the San Diego Clippers, he averaged 14.5 points per game in 14 games, like, which was better than his regular season stats. And then there's the G League playoffs where he actually hasn't played in the G League playoffs a lot, but overall in his career, he's averaging around 10 points per game. In the last couple of years, he's been like 35, 36% from 3. And, you know, kind of close to his college 3-point shooting percentage. But yeah, now after being with Washington Wizards G League team, then the LA Clippers G League team, now he's coming back to Utah, where he played 1 season at Utah State. He's going to be with the Utah Stars. And, you know, the Utah Jazz kind of had to send back some of its G League players after they spent a few games with them late last season. So we'll see if Taylor Funk can compete with those players. But I think he'll be a regular feature, and it'll be nice for maybe Aggie fans who are in the Salt Lake area. Go catch a few Utah Stars games at home and get yourself a picture with Taylor Funk.
Yeah, you cheer him on.
Have him sign some Utah State swag. So
Sure, you'd love to hear the hometown support.
yeah, it's really nice when you know players who good college players in the state of Utah are able to not just come back to the state via the G League. I don't know Jimmer Fredette when he came back when he was playing for like the OKC Thunder, like that was about the biggest crowd they had all year until the BYU fans showed up. But we'll get to see in Sam Merrill and Mishketa, they'd come back every now and again. But you get this every other game for the Utah Stars, having a former Utah State player.
Yeah. Somebody who came up to Utah State for a football game once when he was young in the Utah Jazz organization was George Niang, Ajay Salveson's favorite NBA player. News today, he has signed a 1-year, $3.9 million deal to play for Golden State.
George Niang, like, for all the crap that he gets from a lot of people who basically consider him useless, not just Ajay, because there's a lot of Jazz fans who weren't necessarily a fan of the minivan. He just keeps bouncing around to all these teams.
He's a career 40% guy from three-point range.
He is someone who
he is a stretch 4.
Yeah, that's about all he is.
Yes.
He doesn't really do a whole lot else. But if you can get a guy out there who, if he's open, he'll hit that 3-point shot, like, there's value in that when you can do this, and he's not going to be a starter and he's going to come off the bench. But if you need to say, we need a guy who can spell our power forward, just go out there and hit shots and just don't get completely blown by every time on defense. That'll get you 10 minutes a game in the NBA. And maybe a little bit more if he has a hot hand. But like, Sam Merrill, he's basically made his career at this point. If I hit a lot of 3-point shots, mind you, he's a little bit more versatile in the 3-point shots he takes because he can take it like off the bounce or coming off the screen, leaning one way or the other. So that earns him like 20 to 25 minutes a game sometimes. But like, if you got that one elite skill and you can kind of hold your own elsewhere, you can be a millionaire.
You'd be all right. Yeah. And he's going to make 3.9 this year.
3.9 million. Although if you ask the athletes, like 3.9, that's not a whole lot of money. Like after you account
after 11 years in the league,
after you account for like all of the expenses, and it's like yes, because regular people are not familiar with the concept of expenses.
I want to shift it back. We got a little off track with George Niang, but
no, we want to keep talking George Niang. 935 on the text line saying, does not Ajay owe Eric a highlight video of George Niang?
He probably does. Probably does.
I got to go pull up a highlight film and tag Aj. I'll just post. I think I did it last time George Niang signed a contract. I just pulled a highlight video off YouTube and then just tagged Aj.
Let's shift it back to former Aggies.
So anyway, George Niang's best game in the Jazz. Like let's talk now.
Darius Brown. Now I know he's been making his way through the G League. He actually did see the court, an NBA court, for a minute or two for the Cavaliers.
Literally a minute or two.
And that was about all. But apparently somebody likes what he's doing because he has been named as to represent Team USA in these FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Now, when I look at that roster, I don't recognize anybody outside of Darius Brown. But kudos to him. And the World Cup prelims start this weekend. They play at Chile on the 27th, and they host Colombia on the 31st. So Darius Brown, with his versatile skill set, helping Team USA try to get some wins to qualify for the FIBA World Cup.
See, I recognized a few of the names on the roster. I'm going to scroll through this because a few of them say there's Darius Brown, but there was a couple players. Well, there's Dylan Jones.
Who's Dylan Jones?
He played at Weber State.
Okay.
There are a couple of guys that the Aggies played against. Orlando Robinson, Fresno State. So
this is quite the team they've assembled.
I know. Orlando Robinson was pretty solid. But yeah, these are a bunch of guys. I think they might have run into a couple of these guys, like Kevon Harris at Stephen F. Austin. The Aggies might have played him like 3 years ago. But there's a few names that I at least vaguely recognized. A couple for reasons not related to the Aggies, but a couple of them because of playing the Aggies at some point, in one case being on the Aggies, and another an in-state player. So there's two players that play their college ball in the state of Utah, at the very least, that are on this World Cup qualifying team. Which, why is this the team qualifying for the World Cup? Like a glorified college alumni team.
Yeah, consider who they're playing. Chile and Colombia.
Is that it?
Yes. Well, they do them in these different, they call them windows, and there's only certain teams that you're going to play in your region to sort of start to qualify. Now, if they were playing like Canada, I would suspect this would be a very different team that USA basketball would put together.
Canada, France, Australia, Spain.
So most of these are like your region, geographic region, where you have to play and win a certain amount of games to qualify to be able to advance for the real FIBA World Cup, which is not until next year.
So the U.S. is just phoning it in.
Basically.
Yeah, it's not even
it's like trying. We know we've got some Central and South American countries that we don't need to send our A team, our B team, or even our F team. But we can send these guys.
What level of team is this, would you say, on a scale of A to Z? Like what level of team is this? Or maybe just S to F on that kind of tier list. What tier would you say this is for the United States?
It's G League guys.
It is pretty much entirely G League players. Like this basically just looks like I said, kind of a college, like former college, like all-star team, or like, you know, an alumni team.
A mid-major college all-star team.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of those guys played on power conference teams. I already closed the roster page, so I can't go back and look and remind myself who those players were. But some of those guys were pretty solid, like Dylan Brooks, Darius Brown, Orlando Robinson.
Cool opportunity for Darius Brown, right? To wear a Team USA jersey, and to play for your country, to get international experience, to get more scouting on his game, and to make a little bit more of a name for himself.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity. Whether we kind of poo-poo whether this team is really all that or not, it's still a cool opportunity for him.
We don't have to be delusional about the guys that are not bothering to show up for Team USA, but it's still cool to play for Team USA.
Yes. Let's do this. Let's take a quick timeout. And when we come back, let's talk about Utah State soccer. They had a game against Utah Valley. They've had some games early in the season where lost a game, maybe a little underperformed, starting to get things rolling a little bit. But we knew Utah Valley was on the schedule, which has proven to be a tough program. Aggies faced them last night. We'll hear from how well they did coming up next here on the Full Court Press. Welcome back to the Full Court Press.
Was I supposed to do an ad read? You looked at me like I was supposed to do an ad read.
No, I wanted to see your reaction to the music.
Oh. What is this?
This is Real Love by Dolly Parton.
Oh. It's not one I heard as much.
Can't say I really recognize it, but...
Yeah, I didn't really recognize it much either. I was like... Yeah, I mean, I've heard, like, my mom listened to country music, I think still does, but she just put the radio, like, basically almost in the literal center of the house. If you mapped out the 3 dimensions of the house, the radio was basically in the middle, and it'd be blasting country music most of the day.
Yeah, rest in peace, Dolly Parton, who passed away this morning. Utah State soccer, interesting start of the season. We had a lot of hopes and expectations for this team. Kind of a little bit of a rough start, but the last few maybe starting to get a little bit better. They had a game last night against Utah Valley, and Utah Valley's proven to be kind of a tough team with a schedule that kind of mirrors Utah State.
Yeah, really interesting where I kind of joked there during the break. I was like, do Utah Valley and Utah State have the same schedule maker? Because Utah Valley played Michigan, actually hosted them. So Michigan kind of did a bit of a Utah visit where they played at UVU and at Utah State. UVU tied with Michigan, which is the same thing the Aggies did, although it was a 1-1 as opposed to a 2-2. Then they also played Utah, who the Aggies will be playing next. That's Utah State's next opponent. They've obviously played each other. We'll get into this game. But then UVU is going to play Kansas next on Thursday.
Wow.
And they'll also play a couple of conference opponents for Utah State. They'll play San Diego State and Gonzaga. They also play Weber State, who I believe was on Utah State's schedule. Like Utah Valley and like everyone in Utah ends up playing each other. It's really cool to like in women's soccer, like nobody's got this, thing about, oh, we're not going to go to your place or we're not going to play you. Basically, everyone in the state of Utah is playing home and homes with each other.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge, where Utah State is going to or went to UVU. They're going to Utah. I think they're hosting BYU. I can't remember which, because again, they're doing home and home.
But they have historically. Yeah.
Like even
over
BYU,
the last few years.
BYU, who's like consistently ranked, and they've been like the number one team. They came to Utah State and keep coming to Utah State, but again, they're doing home and homes. But yeah, let's get to this game that Utah State actually played. Talk about the game. Tough Utah Valley team. Similar to Portland, where I know it's not a big name, but like in when you look at women's soccer, these are solid teams. Utah Valley, I believe they made the NCAA tournament last season. They're a solid team out of the Big West. Portland, really solid out of the West Coast Conference. But so this is on the roads. This is tough. Utah State did just come off their only win of the season at that point, 2-0 over Portland, their first shutout. The defense had given up 4 goals in 2 games, so they'd struggled a bit. Got it down in 1 game against Portland. Could they repeat that against Utah Valley, as well as get some good offense against a solid Utah Valley team? Well, it took them the better part of the entire first half for either team to get a goal, but Samantha Sellers with a beautiful pass to Ellie Hendricks on this first play. We'll play it on the streaming for the radio here. This first goal from the Aggies.
Of good, tall, attacking, athletic players up top, and that's where they're going to find their success.
The Aggies in the new Pac-12 this year, so playing a lot of teams closer to home, some teams that went from the Mountain West. Here's Hendricks, left foot, and in for a Utah State goal. Ellie Hendricks, the junior, puts that one just in the right spot at the right time, and it's 1-0 Utah State.
What an outstanding play by Hendricks. I mean, she's honestly stood out to me all night, and that to control this ball, take a cut, and to strike. That
was a wicked shot. It looks like she's out of place, and the ball just bends to the post. And the goalie's just like stepping out and just watches it go by.
Yeah,
she clearly could have made a play on the ball, but didn't think it was going to bend into the goal.
Yeah, she didn't think it was going to go in, and that's one where you can kind of see her reaction afterwards. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I should have gone for that," because you think it's going out. But one beautiful pass from Samantha Sellers, like that was absolutely gorgeous. Ellie Hendricks, her first goal of the season. The Aggies have 5 goals on the season, 5 different goal scorers. And they have, I think, 5 different players with an assist. There's actually only 1 player who has both a goal and an assist, and it's Samantha Sellers, actually. So the Aggies' offense is balanced. They have a lot of players who can make plays, both in sending in those passes and they've shown that offense in terms of number of goal scorers. Now, defense was the big key. Mm-hmm. And I think for only the second time this season, because I actually didn't check the stats, for the Kansas game. I believe they were outshot in that game, but they outshot Michigan and they outshot Portland. UVU actually outshot the Aggies. 13 shots, so the Aggies did have more shots on goal, but Ivy Nystrom, who stepped in for Ali Grashoff, she recorded that shutout against Portland. She only recorded 1 save in that entire game against Portland. She didn't actually have that much work in terms of stopping the ball from going in the net. UVU got 5 shots on goal, which is more than Michigan and Portland put together. So Ivy Nystrom had to step up, and the biggest moment to step up was when there was a PK for UVU, and Nystrom had to come up big in that moment.
Owen set, shot, save! Second attempt for Utah Valley, high and wide. And the biggest save of the night from Nystrom may have just did keep this match at 1-0 Aggies.
Can see how
that was wicked. I mean, anytime you get a stop on a PK, you're guessing right. There's a little bit of luck involved, but got in the right spot to prevent anything going in and shutting out Utah Valley.
Yeah. Also got a bit lucky on that follow-up shot.
Yeah, with the rebound.
That they just absolutely skied and missed wide right, I think. But still, those PKs, like those are, your heart is just beating in your chest. It's almost coming out of your chest, and you've got to be able to keep calm and be able to think and read the defender and catch them when they make a bit of a mistake there. Because I kind of say, like, if you ever save a penalty, it's usually a mistake by the kicker, but you've got to be able to capitalize on that, because it doesn't matter if they don't put it in a good enough spot if you dive the wrong way.
Right.
So you've still got to be on point as a goalkeeper. Nystrom, 2 starts, 2 appearances in her entire career. This is her second season. She redshirted last year. 2 starts, 2 shutouts. A PK save, 6 total saves so far in these 2 games. So she's looking pretty solid in these first 2 games. I think her defense has also stepped up, because I don't want to say that these 2 shutouts are just because they made a goalkeeper change, but the team is definitely taking some steps forward.
Yeah, so Utah State gets the win, beating Utah Valley 1-0, 1-0. So get 2 wins in a row, 2 shutouts in a row, back-to-back. So improving for this team where they want to be, really.
Yeah. Let's hear from Manny Martins, because he talked about that. You mentioned taking steps forward. That was a big thing he talked about after the Portland game, and he kind of reiterated that after this game at Utah Valley. This video, I've cropped it a little bit because theirs is more vertical, so it's kind of really zoomed in if you're watching on the stream. This is from Utah State, who posted this video on social media earlier today.
Really proud of the group. I feel like we're growing with every game. I mean, Ivy coming in and has done a fantastic job to second career game, and she's stopping a penalty kick, has 2 shutouts. A tale of 2 halves. Obviously, they're a very good team, and we knew that they were not going to just lay down for us. But I was really proud of the execution of the game plan in the first half. Created a lot of chances, got a goal, kept them without a shot. But unfortunately we didn't get another goal, and I think it kept them close enough where they came back in the second half and put us under some pressure. But that was important as well for us to be able to navigate that and come out without conceding. Didn't really allow them to create too much danger, even though they put us under some pressure. And at the end, this is a massive result, because this is a good team. They're going to do well, and it's going to help us later. That is the nature of how we schedule. We schedule like this. We don't schedule teams that we're supposed to beat 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Hopefully at some point we get to a place where maybe we get a game like that, but ultimately we schedule this way. So we never think that we're going to come in and just because we dominated the first half that the opponent's going to lay down. We want opponents that are going to test us. I mean, listen, Ivy's a pro, and when I say she's a pro, and just like her process, how she handles everything from training to the scout to the match preparation, even to like classes and just life. So the performance is just a byproduct of just who Ivy is. So not surprised at all, but impressed for sure and proud of her.
Yeah, it's great comments there from the head coach about his team, and talking about Ivy Nystrom making some great stops, a lot of shots on goal, more than they've seen in a little bit, and she performed admirably and shut him out.
Yeah, so you want to see more of that, from Utah State's defense. I keep hyping on the 4 goals allowed in the first 2 games. Last year, I think it took them like 5 games to allow that same number, but they've held at that 4 goals now through 4 games, so they're settling down a little bit more. They got a tough game against Utah. Utah defeated UVU 2-0 earlier in the season, earlier this week or late last week. So it's going to be a tough game at Utah. Even one of Utah State's better teams in the last couple of years, I think it was the 2023 or 2024 team. I think they only ended up being Utah like 1-0, or maybe they got an insurance goal to beat them 2-0. So that's going to be a tough game. Playing on the road, bit of a rivalry game. Utah knows that they're maybe kind of seen as the 3rd team in women's soccer and don't want it, because obviously BYU is kind of that number 1 team. Utah State's kind of usurped them. It's kind of like in men's basketball.
Yeah.
And Utah doesn't want to be seen that. They want to be equal with, above Utah State ideally, but also equal with BYU. And so that's can get a little bit chippy there.
Yeah. So, and that game is when?
I had the schedule up, and then it's their next game, and it's Thursday. So just a couple of days, August 27th, Thursday.
Okay. There you go. Let's do this. We're going to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, it's a Tuesday. Haven't done this in a minute, but we'll get back to it. Highlight a player that we thought really stood out and what they did, our player of the week, and a stat that blew our mind. That's coming up on the Full Court Press. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker.
This isn't a Dolly Parton song.
No, it is. Didn't you know? It's collaboration with Linkin Park.
Really quick, we got to do our stat and player. We want to get to a couple of texts. 1818 saying, I think USU Hoops will make history again. First team to go to the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row with 4 head coaches and make it 8 of 9 with 5 head coaches. Yeah, that would be remarkable.
No, it's just so insane.
Yeah, it really speaks to the community and the
culture,
and the culture, just the program.
Yeah,
like that it, and even like multiple athletic directors.
Yeah,
like they're on like 3 athletic directors in this time period, or more if you include interim athletic directors.
Yeah, true.
So they might be on 5 if you include interims. So it's like, it's pretty insane what Utah State basketball has done.
8968 BYU seems to be about the only team in Utah that doesn't go on the road much in the state of Utah.
I think it's basically just it's your football and men's basketball where those programs just kind of have a stick up their butt. In basically every other sport, they're one. Like volleyball, they come to Utah State, they go everywhere. Women's soccer, they're willing to go to other teams in the state. Gymnastics, they're willing to go. Like a lot of times in gymnastics, they tend to just like do a best of Utah, and they'll do like in Salt Lake or whatever. But like
they compete.
Yeah, but like Utah's coming up here. BYU came up here last year, so like even though they might do some of these best of Utah, and they do it like in Salt Lake every time, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Utah is just they got the gymnastics facilities. They're the gymnastics team. So
yeah,
so it's like that's a big reason why they do the best of Utah down there. Or does that travel? I don't know, but like they're in basically every sport except men's basketball and football. They're one, like women's basketball, they come up here.
Yeah.
Like it's just men's basketball and football.
BYU volleyball was up here last year.
Yeah. They just refuse to do it in men's basketball and football, and just literally every other sport I can think of. They're coming up here. Utah State's going down there, and they just play home and homes basically every year. Or not literally every year, but if they're playing series, they're doing home and homes.
It's usually a friendly scheduling arrangement between the schools.
Because they don't have these giant egos.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the stat that blew our mind, our players of the week. And Jason, let's start off with the stat first. All right, what's the stat that stood out to you this past week?
Eric, on Friday, Columbia High School in Huntsville, Alabama, were the unfortunate owners of a 101-game losing streak in high school football. And they ended it.
Oh, good for them.
A palindrome 41-14 over Greensboro, who unfortunately has to be the team that helped them end that streak. But yes, Columbia High School ending a 101 game losing streak. That's like a decade without a win, basically. But you could see that they showed videos of those kids
Celebrations
celebrating.
had to have been great for those
they
fans and the team.
Yeah, it's like winning the Super Bowl right there. Finally being the team to end, get that bunkie off the team's back. It's got to be amazing.
I'm going to go to baseball. The Philadelphia Phillies, they've had 5 games this season in which they have won after trailing with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning. 2 instances in April, 2 more in June, and they did this again yesterday. That's the most such wins by a Major League Baseball team in a single season since pitches were tracked back in 1988.
So basically, the dream scenario that every kid: 2 outs, 2 strikes, and they hit a home run.
Games
in their
on the
backyard.
line, and all of a sudden, boom! They find a way to win.
That's pretty
5
amazing.
times this season.
That's crazy. You'd
Yes.
be lucky to do that one time.
I know.
This season.
2 outs, 2 strikes. That's not very common. All right, so we'll forego the fancy music bed, but player of the week for you so far this week, Jason?
We just talked about her, Ivy Nystrom. 2 starts, 2 shutouts, 6 total saves. A lot more impressive performance, at least on the stat sheet for her, with the 5 saves against Utah Valley. But even in the Portland game, it's not like she wasn't touching the ball or doing important things. She was catching the ball out of the air, preventing any shot where she would have to potentially get a save, and then just clutch defense. And I'd probably throw in the whole Utah State defense. We tend to focus solely on the goalkeeper. But I'll put a name to Ivy Nystrom, but credit the Utah State defense for a couple of clutch games against some solid teams in Portland and UVU.
I like it. There's been a lot of noise about stuff off the court in the WNBA. It's been a madhouse with that league. But despite it all, Caitlin Clark still goes out there and performs.
Yeah.
Just the other day, against Chicago, she scored 37 points and had 10 assists. She hit 8 3-pointers. That's a career high for her. But she has the most 30-point, 10-assist games in WNBA history. She has 5 of those. The rest of the league, 4 combined. For everyone else combined, there's only been 4 of those such games.
Just ever?
Ever. And she has 5. So Caitlin Clark still going out there and performing, and that's some of the good stuff going on in the WNBA that hopefully some people are still paying attention to. Some of the good things happening on the court, not all the craziness off the court.
There's a lot of fun things happening in the WNBA. I've been able to watch parts of a couple of games. I try and make it part of my rotation of games I'll watch while doing other things at night on my computer, just playing video games and have another game pulled up on my screen. Yeah, there is a lot of politics being thrown in by some, frankly, bad actors who are trying to just make the WNBA their political sideshow. But if you are blessed enough to be able to ignore politics when it comes to sports, you can at least enjoy what's going on in the WNBA on the actual court.
On the actual court. Yeah, their leadership hasn't always been great. There's, as you said, a bunch of sideshows, but there are some great players actually performing every night. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.